Streaming, and we are recording.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and get started. The meeting of the Technology Advisory Group is called to order. Craig, will you take a roll call, please?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Brad Hardig.
Here.
Brian Poor. Ed Winfield.
Here.
Greg Platax. Jeff Sheets. Jim Keane.
Here.
Joseph Curtis. Kim Clark.
Here.
Chris Dahlman.
Here.
Mark Wittenberg.
Here.
Matthew Arve. Mike Chickaroon. Tom Bacon. Phil Osland. Sasan Paridazadi.
Here.
Steve Holiday.
Here.
Tracy Mills.
Here.
And Travis Cartwright.
Here.
All right, and we do have a quorum.
So what's with turning off the private chats?
I didn't realize private chat was turned off.
Just going to say
Oh,
hi to some of my friends there, you know?
Oh, that's because you're not Sap's co-host.
That's exactly why I turned it off, Brad. So you
Exactly. And you were the exact one I was going to reach out to, buddy. Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Same here.
Sorry, we have settings locked down pretty tight on this, and no Zoom bombing or anything.
It's all
All
good.
right. Are there any other members participating who haven't been called? Okay, please mute your phone when you're not speaking. Number 2, call to the audience. Members of the public were asked to submit written comments related to this meeting on the MAG website within 1 hour of the posted start time for the meeting. They will also be able to send comments during the meeting using the chat function. Do we have any comments, Craig?
No, we do not.
On to number 3, approval of the May 21st, 2020 meeting minutes. Could I have a motion to recommend the approval of the May 21st, 2020 meeting minutes?
Move to approve.
In a second.
Second.
Okay, Craig, we have a motion and a second. Will you take a roll call, please?
Certainly. Brad Hardig. Brad.
I had my secondary mute on.
All right,
I'm here.
no.
Yeah.
All right. Brian Poor. Ed Winfield. This is for approval of meetings, so just yay or nay. Ed Winfield. Greg Platax.
Hey.
Jeff Sheets. Jim Keane.
Okay.
Joseph Curtis. Kim Clark.
Yay.
Chris Dahlman.
Yay.
Mark Wittenberg.
Yay.
Matthew Arve. Mike Chickaroon. Tom Bacon. Phil Osland. Sasan Paridazadi.
Yay.
Steve Holiday.
Okay.
Tracy Mills.
Yay.
And Travis Cartwright.
Yay.
And that was passed unanimously.
Thank you, Craig. Number 4, Regional Community Network update. Ryan Gish from the Maricopa Association of Governments will provide an update on the RCN. Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, members of the TAG. It's been a busy few months. I know I haven't exactly been able to get out to a lot of the agencies to physically visit and do some work, but I've been pretty busy on the traffic side, doing a lot of remote with some of the related projects that have been coming up, especially with some of the emerging technology projects that a lot of the traffic or transportation department's been working on. But I was also looking back at some of my old notes to see the last time I gave a TAG update, and it's been almost a year. So my apologies on that. Last time was September. But a couple of brief notes here in the past year, I guess, or at least in the past 6 months that are probably the most important. A few months back, we had repaired a major East Valley or a down fiber that was along the one of our major RCN links to the East Valley. So it was a fiber link that linked up the rental car center out to Chandler, kind of help create that that leap out through Gilbert and Mesa, and then back up to ADOT. So As far as any other links, we're looking at repairing another one it's up, but it's not the most reliable link, and it's between McDonald and Surprise. So we're hoping to kind of get that one patched up soon here in the next month or two. Aside from that, on the fiber side, I've also been on the network side. I was helping Chandler with a little bit of their traffic field network segmentation. It was a joint effort by their IT and well, some of you guys there, and then also their traffic department. So it was a really successful, I guess, project, if you will. So it was really helpful because they were on a flat network, and it was nice to be able to segment them out into different subnets. And it helped a lot of there, because if you're having different cameras and let's say traffic signal controllers and a couple other devices they might have, if you can segment a lot of those out, it really makes the network run a lot more efficiently. So huge effort by IT getting a lot of firewall changes into the RCN. So I really do appreciate that on your guys' side. And then of course, the traffic had a huge pull on getting a lot of the field network stuff done. On more of a planning side, I've been working with our TSMO, so our safety maintenance operations group, transportation systems maintenance and operations division, and also with the MAG ITS members on a fiber maintenance on-call project. So this was something that was planned out years back as part of this TSMO plan. And it's a call out or a project to support local agencies with fiber maintenance and to ensure reliable fiber communications along some of the regional corridors. So working with those folks on that, and it may actually involve some of you guys coming forward. So you might hear about some of that. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the membership? None heard. Thank you, Mr. Gish. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion only. Moving on, committee roundtable. As requested at our previous meeting, our next item is a roundtable discussion on current regional and local issues and solutions related to information technology and COVID-19. Do we have anyone who'd like to start?
I guess I'll open up one thing related to that, and that is, this is Ed. What is everyone doing in terms of their telework? Is it have an end date? Is it open-ended, end of the year, that kind of thing? What's some of the general perspectives out there? We're debating this in Maricopa County right now.
Mark Wittenberg here in Tempe. So we're watching the CDC gating criteria for return to work. I've been having a lot of talks with the city council and our city management. It looks like we're going to be extending telecommuting into what I call the new norm. So as we open services, what our city manager is looking to do is say, okay, how do we provide technology to those services? For example, if we open the library, what does that mean? Who do we need to bring back? So instead of just saying we're going to bring everybody back, it's more like, how can we support the services that are opening to the public, and how can we leverage telecommuting? We're definitely not heading to 100% telecommuting, but where we seem to be heading is like our infrastructure operations area, where you have to physically be here doing a staggered schedule. But then in our programming PMO, it's more of come in as needed or as required to be here in person. So with that group, it's probably going to be more like 80% of the time they'll be telecommuting. We're definitely not looking at that 100%, but right now we don't have any date set. We're really waiting on the gating criteria, which the state is very close.
Any other comments?
That's almost exactly what City of Scottsdale is doing. I think the only caveat I would put on that is I think Mark was really talking about IT. I think as a city, we'll hit those markers. And once we do that, it's really going to be up to each one of the directors for their department. And some are more open and comfortable with the concept of telecommuting, and others are less. And the city manager is going to leave some of that. He does not want to make that call. I think similar to when the president didn't want to make some national calls on closing things down or whatever, they left it up to all the governors. They're gonna leave it up to the various directors. And I know from my perspective, there's probably going to be staff that probably won't come back. I mean, the prime group there would be our application development team. They've been very productive. They've also been very open and vocal that they really feel that it's working well, and they'd like to continue on with that. And I don't have unless I can have a hard argument as to why they're impacting service and they're not being as productive, I don't see why I wouldn't allow that to happen.
And Mesa, I mean, the city managers asked the department heads to ramp up to 50%, but he is leaving some discretion up to the individual department heads. Early on in May, we had been primarily teleworking, and I told our city manager that I don't see a scenario where we would need to go back to a full load in the office. I mean, folks are productive, but we know that, Brad, you talked about the application developers. So yeah, there are certain groups that can be effective teleworking, but within those groups, there are certain employees that can be effective teleworking and others that can't. And so I've put it on my leadership team to identify who would be good candidates to telework. Of course, you still need them to come in the office at some point, just because there needs to be some kind of connection back to the organization. To think that they never come back in the office, I don't think that's good for them or the organization, because you kind of lose some chemistry in that. But certainly we're going to have a lot of folks that spend a lot of their time teleworking.
Hey,
That's really the rub for me, is that I am personally, I am probably a more in-person guy. I'm in the office today, actually. I'm coming into the office a couple times a week, just showing support for the team that's here. But there are individuals, and that's the hard part. I think, as you said, either productive. I actually had a staff member who ended up, they lived by themselves, with COVID and everything, locking everything down. It put them into a big funk, and so they needed to come back to the office, and they wanted. I mean, it's like it was an interesting dilemma. And the problem is, it's not a one size fits all. We've talked about, we're in 2 buildings right now, and I think if I had enough takers, I could probably get rid of the one building and sell it. It's right next to our stadium, and the Giants have been wanting it forever. But the thing is there's no going back. Once you've done that, there's no going back. And so the next person who may come into that role may not have that same desire and or productivity.
Yeah, Brad, we're very similar as we're starting to look at our space because we needed more space. And citywide, we're going to be analyzing the space requirements. We just did a space study, but it was all based on everybody being here 100% of the time. And we think we can save the city actually a significant amount of money, and perhaps not build the new building they were talking about, which would be great.
That would be a lot of money.
Excellent. Thank you.
Has anybody talked about like hoteling or implemented anything like that?
Hi, this is Audrey at MAG, and we are considering that as we move back into the office. That's one of the things we're evaluating. So I think there's a real chance that we will do that for at least some of our employees.
Thanks, Audrey.
And Tolleson is basically in the same place as everybody else, where we've staggered schedules. I have a suspicion too, a lot of people aren't going to come back, or they'll come back for that 20% of the time. Unfortunately, we have been classified as a hotspot, so we have no dates or times that we're even looking at reopening at this point.
What are you guys all doing for hardware? Did you let your people take their hardware home, or are they using their personal computers? And what is everybody doing?
Yes. So yes to all
We
that.
have a little bit of both too, but I was curious.
Yeah, we made a significant investment using some CARES funding, to the tune of about $3.6 million buying equipment and swapping out desktops with laptops where it made sense, so folks can quickly just pick up and go home and be on the same device. And that I think we distributed about 10,000 pieces of equipment at last count. So
Yeah, we're in a similar
And
boat.
Maricopa, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, it's similar to Travis. We sent home a lot of laptops, and we've created what's called a home kit, because trying to work off of a small laptop screen is just horrid. So docking station and 124-inch monitor, and then a Surface tablet, and some home use as well. But we discourage that, and we're slowly chipping away at getting those out of the system.
Yeah, in Maricopa, we had a refresh program going on. So we had planned to refresh a lot of devices. A lot of those then converted to laptops. And then we also were fortunate to get CARES funding. So we ended up buying a lot more laptops. So a few people took equipment home. Some of the folks like GIS and that had some specialized equipment that they felt they needed, we were able to accommodate that. But we kind of discouraged the take your desktop home, or that kind of thing. We got a few of those here and there, but for the most part, I think we ended up with pretty much giving everyone a laptop. We made it very clear from the start that we didn't have laptops for everybody, and so that was a little bit of where we had to roll those out over time, but that's how we're sitting today.
Well, I think I'm feeling a little cheap here over at Scottsdale. We already had a lot of tablets and laptops. We had over 1,000 NetMotion users, so those were able to just pick up and go. We have not allowed any equipment to be taken from the office home. Don't know whether we'll change that strategy going forward. A lot of the people are using their own home units, and then they're RDPing into their desktops here, so they have the full functionality. And there have been situations, we actually had it was approved by the assistant city managers, where if you did not have the resources at home to be able to RDP in, you would apply towards a pool of laptops. We had 50 of them. And ironically, at the end of the day, only 10 of them were taken.
We did a similar setup. We had loaner laptops for the majority of the people that had to, they were essential and had to continue to work. And then they RDP to their computers for the most part. Our GIS, they took their computers home, and our utility billing people, because they had such a specialized system, they took their computers home, but we've not allowed anybody else. But I'm just thinking in the long term, if like, I don't remember who was saying they may, some of their people may not come back. Would you allow them to take their equipment home in that scenario?
I would say yes. I mean, if it's, and I think originally we didn't want to do it straight out of the chute, because we felt that there was going to be a lot of movement, there was going to be a lot of inventory issues, there was going to, even our risk manager and honestly was concerned about it, because employees picking up their own stuff, hooking it all up, And as we get further and further into this, I think we're going to have to revisit what we're doing. By the way, Tracy, I really like your house.
I wish it was mine. I just found a nice background. I'm actually in the office, but you don't want to see my messy office.
I had a question about like council meetings. Is everybody pretty much staying remote for those for the time being, or are they all in person? And what about like larger group meetings? Where are you guys at on that?
We had our first open public meeting last night again. They are still limiting the amount of people, obviously, to social distance. We're asking directors and whomever don't need to be there remotely connect to keep the occupancy down. But yesterday was our first time going back to allowing public in, and I think we only had maybe 10 people come. So we're kind of doing a hybrid, and we'll probably continue for a while.
Yeah, Maricopa, we're using GoToWebinar for the main board meetings, and that seems to be working well. We get 3 supervisors in; they can space themselves out, and the other 2 are on the GoToWebinar. That's been working very well for us. Everyone seems to be very satisfied with that. They recently made a change to where now all of the remote folks can be seen on the screen as well. So. And then when they're in terms of public input, they solicit that via email, and we'll offer that into the meeting as appropriate. So we really don't allow the public or the media, for that matter, to come into the board supervisor's auditorium.
Ours is being driven really by council. We're going to have a new mayor this year and potentially 3 new council members, so a complete shift in this, and it's become political. So the city manager's just kind of standing back, and a couple of them would really like to come back, and the majority does not. And so we're letting them just decide what they want to do. So for the most part, they have been remote. We did have one session where they were in person. It was an important meeting. They did the social distancing, but public was not allowed. And then as far as larger venues, that's an interesting question. We are continuing to have events out at Westworld that I know go well over the 50 people. And I think we're past that threshold, but we were looking to that even prior to it. And we're taking, I think I may have mentioned this on a previous call, we're taking steps as far as the air handling and a lot of other things. We're putting in ultraviolet light and other filtering. That's going to be our first facility that we're going to be doing it in. Actually, Barrett-Jackson is going to be having a small event in October. Smaller. I mean, if you've ever been to Barrett-Jackson, it's not going to be that large scale, but they are going to have a smaller scale of that. So we continue to leverage those types of facilities, and our Center for the Arts is also opening back up. Is yours, Mark?
So our recreation facilities have already opened, but again, with social distancing, the library is open, again, limiting the amount of people coming in. The Tempe Center of the Arts, that group specifically is very concerned about opening. And so that facility is currently closed, and haven't heard of any plans to reopen in the near future. And then as far as the council meetings, we were doing kind of a mixed modality. We had the mayor and 1 council member in the council chambers, and everybody else was remote. But one of our members got COVID, and now we're completely virtual, and there's no plans to come back. They're fully recovered, of course, but as of right now, everything's virtual, and it's been working very well. We do speaker cards. You can either do email or electronically on the website. And then we do an invite through WebEx Event Center so the public can actually appear at the council. So we've had multiple developers and residents talk at the council meeting, but in a very controlled fashion.
This is Jeff, and I'm in Avondale. It sounds like we've been pretty similar to what Mark just talked about. So we've been doing council meetings over Zoom, and the mayor's been coming in for those. And there's a couple of staff members, if you're doing a presentation, they've typically been present. Otherwise, everybody's online remote. Call for the public is online as well. Being able to comment and get information in that way. So.
And Tallis, it's been the same. We're fully remote. And I've actually been pleasantly surprised because our attendance is higher remotely than we've had with the in-public meetings. So it's been positive from that note.
I got a quick question. It would probably be for Mark and Travis. Was there any concern when you, especially Mesa, you put 3.6 million into laptops instead of desktops, and the tail that that's going to have on the whole replacement program? Because I know that was a big concern of our finance department.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the replacement program. Now we didn't spend 3.4 million on just laptops. It was cameras and docking stations and a lot of different things. I think we bought around 750 laptops or something like that. And so, yeah, we know that it's going to increase our replacement.
Was that a concern of them?
We weren't that concerned about it. No.
I'm not concerned at all. I'm just they are.
Well, you shouldn't be concerned. You guys have a pile of money.
Well, I knew it was coming.
They might have to sell the helicopter.
Yeah, right.
And Brad, as far as Tempe goes, we're actually moving towards a single device refresh. And so getting away from physical desktops, moving towards laptops. And my sales pitch to the CFO has been, I don't need the new building anymore. And that space and the budget that I needed for the space, that can now go towards single devices. And so that's what we're trying to do. And we think in the end, it's actually going to be a savings overall for the city. I should have sold used cars.
Excellent angle on that. It really is. I like that. And we've always been, when we adopted tablets, we really don't have anybody who has two devices, and we haven't for years. So we don't have that chip to use. But I do like the building, because I think I really do think that we're going to be able to eliminate some real estate.
Or certainly no new real estate. I think that's the other big key, is there's already projects that we have funded where I don't think we're going to need that money. So I'm trying to borrow that.
Thanks.
Do we have any other comments or questions on this subject? Okay. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion only. So we will move on to number 6, agency project update. Our next item is the agency project update. Committee members can discuss current agency projects that may be of a regional interest to the committee. This is for discussion and information only. Any takers on this one?
I would just convey to the group the efforts, both from the broader county organization, but also the enterprise technology group in terms of supporting the election and all of the dynamics there. I know some information is flowing in the media now since the elections group gave an update to the board yesterday. Lots of activity there, but we are deeply entrenched and involved with elections, up to and including security operations in the operations room the day before, the day of, all kinds of things. So there is a lot of activity around elections from the technology standpoint.
Anyone else?
It's Audrey of MAG, and I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. We are planning a webinar for October 26th from 10 to noon. It's going to be HS and are going to be talking to the transportation groups about security, and this group will also be invited, or your staff, whoever you want is to attend. Cyber and physical security for transportation infrastructure. This was a great, I guess. Thank you.
And what was the date again, Audrey? You're cutting out.
Sorry, October 26th.
Okay. October
And
26th, transportation, cybersecurity, correct?
cyber and physical, yes.
Will you be sending something out for that, or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for a project update?
I'll go. So, and then the City of Surprise, we just kicked off a meeting yesterday to have our first simulcast G radio tower in the city. Yay. We're desperately needing the radio connections up in our northwest area of planning. So we're pretty excited to get that kicked off.
Anyone else?
Just two quick projects. We're implementing a new LMS system. Our previous one was probably 15 years old, 18 years old. Company called Sum Total, and we're going to Meridian, SaaS-based solution. Looks like it's going to be a pretty good fit for us, and very, I think within budget. It was actually one of the lower ones. And then we're also replacing a document management system that I got to scratch my head, probably almost at least 15, almost 20 years old. And that was from OpenText, or actually prior to that, Hummingbird. That is an overwhelming one. We had 27 RFP responses.
Can you say who you went with?
We have not yet on the document management. We're still, Meridian was for the LMS, but for the document management, I'm happy to share it. We're just too early on in the process. Now, the frustrating thing was, and it was probably actually good, we put a lot of information out there about what we were looking for and what our budget was. And some of these people that came back, I mean, there was one that was $1.7 million in implementation costs alone. And they just didn't read the RFP. So it was unfortunate that they spent all the time to put that stuff together when they just don't even have a dog in the race.
We keep putting a bug in the ear that this is, heavily needed citywide, but we can't get the funding yet for it. So I'll be interested to hear how yours goes and who you select.
Well, and I will say there's a at a high level, I'll keep it that way. There's a mix. So there's some that are your traditional document management vendors and or companies, and that was the whole thing. There aren't 27 document management systems out there, but there's 27 VARs or companies that want to do it. So some were doing the OpenText or the OnBase or some of the larger companies, but there were also some responses where they're using a layover with or overlay with SharePoint, which was kind of interesting.
Mark here, City of Tempe. We're also doing a LMS replacement with NeoGov. So we're just getting started on that. We had the kickoff meeting actually yesterday and starting employee training. but it's also an employee performance management system as well. So we're doing both of those at the same time. The other thing is we just started another project with the Cloud Innovation Center and partnering with ASU. Our human services group had gone out for a national grant and received around $80,000 to partner with Arizona State University to really consolidate our human services, and especially with all of the civil unrest and police reform. The whole idea here is to use technology, to leverage technology to really navigate the whole human services and all the various things that are available to people. And really that early intervention is what we're looking at. We just kicked that project off, but I do think it has regional implications because, especially with some of our vulnerable population, they're moving between cities. And so they're definitely needing more regional services than city services. And so hopefully at some point we can get this pilot off the ground and then involve some of the other agencies in the region.
Mark, that's very interesting. I'm curious what the connection is with the KIC, with the Cloud Innovation Center.
So the Cloud Innovation Center, what we're hoping to do is to create a chat bot and then use AI in order to marry up the families or the needs with the services that are available. So that's what Amazon is going to be helping us with.
I definitely am interested in that one.
Okay.
Don't know how many of you are using e-signature, but we've certainly seen a dramatic increase in our use of DocuSign. We had brought it in last year as just part of our general innovation agenda. I think the data was as of, we just got it in late last year. We had like 50 documents that had gone through as the year turned. Now we're going 10,000 documents a month. So it's really proved valuable, on the backside of the crisis. Obviously, that's something that has really taken off for us, and people are seeing how valuable it can be. So I thought that was interesting.
We also had to go through that same pain of DocuSign, getting more people on DocuSign. So we just did a new agreement with them, envelopes and enterprise agreement. So it's more envelope based instead of user based. I think that's the word's gonna get out and everybody's gonna want it soon. So I'm trying to figure out how to manage the envelopes.
Right.
We're doing something, we're right in the middle of evaluating different players. And thank you, Travis, for a lot of what the road work you've done with Blue Ink. It looks like a very interesting company with a strong price point. Tracy, what are they quoting you for envelopes? Because what we found was we're looking at Adobe Sign, DocuSign, and Blue Ink. And Blue Ink was by far the least expensive and a very feature-rich platform. They don't have their FedRAMP certification yet, but they're supposed to be having it by the end of the year. And we, I suppose, I don't want to say threatened, but we let the other vendors know that what we were doing and who was in the race, and the price points that they're coming in at per envelope are crazy. So do you know how much they're trying to quote you? I mean, really come down a lot.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to look back and I can share that information with you.
And as we get closer,
let's put it that way.
As we get closer, I'd be happy to share it with the group. But I mean, they, both Adobe and DocuSign came right down close to Blue Ink. And I was shocked. I mean, because when their original proposals were through the roof, and hopefully I can, once we're further on in the process, I can share that with the team and everybody can benefit from that.
That'd be great.
Travis, you want to talk about your experience with Blue Ink? You still out there?
Yeah, Blue Ink's been an awesome partner for us. When we got these CARES funds and we put together a Mesa CARES, we needed to stand up an application, a way to receive applications electronically and route them and all that. And so I engaged the Blue Ink because they were nimble. And so that's the part
Yeah.
I get nervous about is if too many of you sign up with them, they might not be as nimble, but no, they've been
We love you, man.
and they're you know, local firm, and so we like that about them. Just great people to work with. The price point on the has been about a third of what DocuSign has charged. So we're actually converting from DocuSign over to Blue Ink.
I can tell you that their DocuSign tech support has not been great to work with.
DocuSign is the IBM of the
I wish
world.
that shocked me, but it doesn't.
It has been, I mean, it was like literally threatening to get some things, you know, turned up, you know, trying to get that coordinated.
You know, one thing I would like to throw out to the group, and I actually reached out to JR. I guess California is reevaluating their legislation related to wet signatures and making it a little bit easier to transition to the e-signatures. And I don't know how much you guys have been down this path, but Arizona is like one of the worst. Matter of fact, one of the things that they were Blue Ink, you know, talking about nimble and quick to move, they're even talking about having basically notaries that are on wheels that they work with or have that can help drive that process. But right now, it's very, very difficult without. Matter of fact, the state won't accept things without notary. And none of the three solutions, when we brought that to their attention, or actually asked them what their solution was, nobody has a solution, and they kept pushing the state, and they said it can't be done. So we, as a group, may want to see what we can do to influence that.
I can tell you that another big challenge that we've had right now, and as simple as it sounds, it's moving large documents back and forth with our planning services pretty much working remotely and still having to handle you know, permits and things like that, and all those large files. We're really struggling with how to move those documents back and forth. I would be curious to see what everybody else is doing. We're not 365 yet, so that's been our challenge.
For permitting, we've been using Bluebeam and implemented the e-permit side of that. And so all the permits are going through a Bluebeam. So we got away from like the emailed PDFs that we were getting, because some of those submittals are just huge.
We've got Bluebeam, we've got Acela. Well, we also have stood up an FTP site that we use for general purpose needs of this type. And we've recently enhanced that. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Goldscape, maybe, I can't remember. But if you want any information, I can certainly connect you with the people there. So interestingly enough, with our planning and development, they said they're going gangbusters, and a lot of it is online submittals now. We have some hours at the office there for people who will, you know, want to come in for some reason, but they've really pushed it way up. 85-90% now is electronic submission and reviewed for that matter. So it's been very interesting for them.
We have Bluebeam too, but it's been slow to implement. You know, we're in the process of upgrading our land management system, so we don't quite know where we're going to be with that piece of it. So, you know, I guess time will tell. We'll just continue riding the struggle bus until we have a full solution.
You know, like Ed mentioned, we've also used liquid files for transferring large files that are outside of Bluebeam.
I would, you know, second that. We use the same product. It's very inexpensive. I mean, it's when we first got it, I said it can't be that cheap, and it's really, really inexpensive. It's been a solid product. You can set kind of what your threshold is, and we have ours set at 40 gig files, and you pretty much drag, drop it, let it do it in the background, and it moves everything for you. It's very flexible. And it also gives you the capability of every single person in the city having their own personal Dropbox. When
You really mean
I mean
Dropbox,
cheap,
so
I think it's less than, it's like $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah, that's what I recall. It's small and it's
Yeah.
a ton.
So then does it link to Dropbox or?
No, it has its own.
Oh, okay. When you said Dropbox, I thought you meant
So
Dropbox.
it creates its own link that then
Gotcha.
you can put in. So what I do is I have it in my tag or my signature file or signatures, automatic signatures, in certain situations where I know I'm going to need to share big information. They just click on that link, they drop the files into there, and it automatically comes into you or into the city into a repository that has a link that you as the receiving party clicks on that link, and you have immediate full access to it because it's in this large repository basically.
Okay.
That you have aging of documents, you can links and things like that. You can say it's only valid for a couple of weeks or however long. Certain people can only get to it. It's for the money, it's really a great solution.
I'll definitely look into that. We have a smaller FTP application, but I think they were bought out. And so the particular piece that we like, there was a plug-in to Outlook that allowed you to do kind of that same thing at ease, but that piece is not being supported well. So that's where we're kind of struggling with it. But thank you. That's great information.
Any other project updates? Okay. Request for future agenda items. Do we have anything for future agendas? Okay, if not, just contact Craig if anything comes up over the next couple of months. We'll make sure it's agendized. Craig, could you please summarize any tasks that were assigned during the meeting?
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I will get the information to the October 26th event out to the group, and I will continue to work on the November agenda. Was this particular agenda item, the roundtable, was this of interest to the group if we add this to a future agenda item?
It seems to be useful. If I think everybody else, I see a bunch of heads nodding. So yes, I would agree.
Could you guys send out an updated member list, email list?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
I had one more thing. I'm not sure how it'll work when it comes to vaccine distribution. Yeah, I think a lot of that load is going to be carried by Maricopa Public Health, potentially the state. But it's a fairly new area for us because of the pending release of vaccines and all that. So I would just ask if we're gathering information, we're trying to find out what's out there, we're trying to understand this space a little bit. So if anybody comes across anything interesting related to vaccine distribution management systems, anything like that, I'd be happy to take that and get that information from you. We're just now starting to look at this and get ready for what's going to be hitting us pretty soon. Thank you.
All right. The next meeting of MAGTAG is scheduled for Thursday, November 19th, 2020 at 10 a.m. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second?
Second, this is Brad.
All in favor?
These are easy ones.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, everybody. The business is now concluded.
Thanks.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.